So, how is Planetside 2 doing in 2025? A game that I've talked about quite some before, and one of the few games recent years that I put a lot of time into, grinding both classes and guns more than I expected I would do when picking up the game a couple of years ago. Yes, I just planned to do maybe one video covering Planetside 2 at that point of time, but instead I got hooked. So I made a series playing aggressive as an infiltrator sniper, and I also started to branch out, ranking up the other classes and their weapons, and overall learned more about the game as time went by. And do have to mention this since it's quite rare that I get that motivated to play a game like that much any longer. I was also one of those players that were well aware of the existence of Planetside 2 already back then when the game was released in 2012, but I never got into the game at that point since I was playing other titles. But I'm glad that I eventually did give it a try later on, and since it's still one of those games that I do enjoy to play and I do come back to it very so often. But how does it play and feel now in 2025, since the game is old and it will become 13 years old even on November 20 this year? The game is still very much alive and kicking, I have to say, although I've seen both changes and also a general drop when it comes to player count recent years, which I guess is kind of expected. The game has also gone through various phases and different developers, and the newest developers, which is Toadman Interactive, has most likely quite recently, at least by now, started to understand and grasp what kind of game they've taken over, and also how the community works and what they're asking for. When I'm making this video, I've been away from Planetside 2 a few months since I play and cover a variety of FPS games on my channel. One thing that happened early on after downloading the game once more is the fact that I had to wait in queue in order to get into the fight. It was quite some time since that happened in Planetside 2, and hopefully that means that there might be more people playing the game again, at least at certain times. We're getting back to that in a moment. Another thing to mention on the positive side of things is the fact that I was sometimes able to choose between two different continents at the same time when getting back into the game once more, and I haven't seen that happening in years. But one thing that might have an effect on this is, of course, an important thing to mention here also, is the fact that Planetside 2 recently, not too long ago last year, decided to merge the Cobalt and the Miller server into one, which most likely have an effect when it comes to the matchmaking experience and also the stats overall. So, in order to get a hint when it comes to people playing Planetside 2, I decided to check out the Steam charts. Unfortunately, it doesn't really show an upgoing trend, which I was hoping for. Instead, it's been around 700 players on average when it comes to daily players, about the same numbers that I've seen since around March-April last year, meaning 2024. But that's Steam only. We should remember that not everyone playing the game on PC, as I am, is playing it through Steam, and also we have to consider we have PlayStation 4 out there, although the bigger player count is most likely to be found on PC. Anyways, if we peek into active player count IO and check out the total amount of daily players, then it says around 16.7k players. If that is 100% correct or not, I can't really tell, but it at least gives us an indication where we're at. I guess it leaves us where I often find myself at when playing older games. If you can, try to schedule your gaming when there's more people online, obviously. Usually that is late afternoon and evenings, my time at least living in the EU, and on weekends when more people have the time to play. I say that since the best of feelings when it comes to massive online shooters such as Planetside 2 is when a lot of people is playing at the same time. Which leads me to the next segment, the gameplay experience. No game is perfect, and eventually you'll start finding flaws within Planetside 2 as well. For some, the old outdated graphics might be a thing. Not for me though, that doesn't bother me much since I've been playing video games for a very long time. Instead, the focus for me is more about the actual gunplay, and there can be some bad experiences here as well when it comes to hit reg, meaning most likely on the server side of things, I would say, that can be annoying, just to mention one thing. But besides that, I do like the variety of guns in the game, how they feel, and it also is one of those games where you actually feel quite satisfied when getting kills. Not all games gives me that when it comes to shooter games, to be honest. Remember also that there's 3 factions in Planetside 2 to choose from. New Conglomerate, as I'm playing here in the video, but also the Terran Republic and Vano. This means that there's plenty of options and also possibilities if you decide to later down the line create multiple profiles within the game in order to play and discover them all, which can be a fun thing to do. Yes, there's plenty of things to discover, try out, and learn in a massive sci-fi battlefield shooter such Planetside 2. It can become one of those games where you nerd into stats and challenges, and even though new updates when it comes to new content aren't rolling out with a haste, you will definitely, even so, find yourself very busy for a very long time when starting to play the game for the first time. It should be said though that even though you might be an experienced FPS gamer, it does take some time to really get into and adapt and start to enjoy to play Planetside 2 to the fullest. The game has depth and, as mentioned, a lot to look into and understand in order to unlock its full potential. Therefore, I believe it might be good to mention that even though the first impressions might be great, at least I hope they will for you, the real fun in my book comes after weeks or even months when you've been playing Planetside 2 on a more regular basis. The well-earned know-how by then, in combination with better upgraded gear and weapons, will most likely boost your overall performance, which of course then increases your enthusiasm and also incentive to come back in order to play more. So yeah, a bit of a steep learning curve maybe, but don't be afraid, you'll get there. So what will it be for you then? Will you play foremost as a medic, heavy assault, light assault, engineer, or as an infiltrator? This will most likely depend on what player type you are. If you decide to put your most efforts and hours into, let's say, the medic class, that's great, since you then will be specialized a bit, and by doing so also you become a good asset for your team. At the same time, learning to play all classes eventually, at least somewhat decent, can also be important, since you then are able to switch from, example, medic to heavy assault in order to boost your squad and team at any given time and moment, depending on the actual gameplay situation. So maybe variation is the key for you in order to not get too worn out either just playing one class. But it doesn't stop there, since the Planetside 2 battles are taking place both on land, in the air, and sometimes also at sea or in the water. You can also decide whether you want to become a beast of a pilot, a great tank driver, or harass the enemy driving with an harasser. Well, there's plenty of options here, and I've seen and played with both some very skilled pilots, but also tank drivers and gunners in Planetside 2. The moments when you're getting into these amazing full-out Planetside 2 battles can be a great and also adrenaline-pumping experience. It can become insanely hectic, but also engaging, until the fight reaches a climax and boom, all of a sudden it's over, almost quiet, and your faction might have come out on top, or maybe you lost, at least for now, and therefore have to fall back and regroup and spawn more vehicles into the battlefield once more. These are moments and situations where I feel that Planetside 2 offers something partly unique, and in combination with the infantry battles that occur sometimes in smaller places of the maps, usually in some buildings, creating some crazy close quarter combat moments gives a partly unique experience of a game, and it's also why I'm playing Planetside 2 also in 2025. To wrap things up, the game is doing pretty okay. Remember that it's almost now 13 years old. It has its flaws for sure. Some people have also been mentioned cheaters. Fortunately for me, I haven't been encountering so many during the years I've been playing, but that doesn't mean that they are not there. But at the same time, it does offer something that I can't find in other shooters out there. So I would highly recommend you to try out Planetside 2. It's free to play, and I would love to hear from you what you think. With that said, also, thanks a lot for watching my video. I really appreciate it. And if you appreciate it to watch, please give it a like. It helps me out here on YouTube. And I hope to talk to you soon again here on my channel. Take care now, and I hope you will enjoy Planetside 2. Later.